explore this unusual dimension. Using the magic brush to shape the world with paint and paint thinner on the path to become an epic hero. Disney Epic Mickey Rebrushed launches on Nintendo Switch this year.
You know, I never thought 2024 would be the year that we would see the comeback of Epic Mickey.
If you know me, then you know that I love Epic Mickey. Ever since I first played the original back in late 2010, it became one of my favorite video games, combining many of my interests to create a dark platformer that puts the player in a twisted version of Disneyland, filled with long-forgotten characters and elements across Disney's century-long history, and featuring possibly the most underrated story starring Mickey Mouse. Generally, Disney is never known for making great games by themselves, and depend on the help of big-name developers like Square Enix, Capcom, or Insomniac to make them worthwhile. But with gaming legend Warren Spector leading the team, they were able to make an enjoyable Mickey Mouse game that earned the epic in the title. Also, over the years, I've used my video making skills many times to express that love for the game. And I don't just mean a bunch of videos. I even made a whole web series based on Epic Mickey with the Epic Mickey files. In fact, to this day, I still see people who refer to me as the Epic Mickey files guy. But there is another thing I want to show you to prove that I am possibly the biggest fan of Epic Mickey. If you watch my videos, then you're most likely familiar with my office here, including the Epic Mickey poster behind me. But what you may have not seen is what is on top of my office, and there you will find my own Epic Mickey shrine. Keep in mind though that this is not literally everything from the franchise. Most of this consists of figurines, books, and Wii accessories. But while this collection is still a process, I want to show you an example of how much of an Epic Mickey fan I am. You know how people have their one personal fixation on a niche thing that turned into a big part of who they are? Well, Epic Mickey has always been mine. And for the longest time, I always thought that it was going to be this awesome short-lived series that came and went in the early 2010s, just like many of Disney's other attempts at making a gaming franchise. That was until 2024. There's a reason why this announcement was such a huge deal. It was considered to be the biggest reveal of that Nintendo Direct. Sure, it was technically just for third-party games, but that didn't change how Mickey got everyone excited. You see, rumors kept floating around about a possible Epic Mickey remake for years. And since we live in an age where remakes of popular games for next-generation consoles have become increasingly common, some have wondered if Disney would ever give that treatment to the mouse's adventures in the Wasteland. I mean, if Kingdom Hearts can get never endlessly re-released before they put out a new installment, why not give Epic Mickey a chance to make a comeback? Well, that wish was finally granted by the team at THQ Nordic and Purple Lamp, who had experience remaking classic games that were based on famous cartoon IPs with a rehydrated version of SpongeBob SquarePants' Battle for Bikini Bottom and its spiritual successor, The Cosmic Shake. And just like what the team did before with SpongeBob and what the original Epic Mickey did, they later revealed a massive limited collector's edition that's filled with physical bonuses. Yet, it was also a little controversial for having a $200 price tag. I understand the argument to why it sounds expensive just for a game with some extra stuff. But nowadays, I'm just gonna say that $200 is very reasonable. Unless you've tried to get one yourself, you have no idea how hard it was to get these, let alone for the console that you want to play it on. Some have speculated that they all sold out on the day it was revealed, but it was very rare that you find a store that was offering it where its webpage said that it wasn't out of stock. The easiest way to get it is through online public marketplaces like on Facebook or eBay, but the prices they put, they'll make you wish it was $200. And in my case, I won't go into details, but yes, I spent a lot more than the retail price and had to make almost a 2-hour round trip to get it. So before we look into the game itself, I want to show you what I got in this collector's edition. Yes, I know this might not be what this review is about, but I spent hundreds of dollars on this box, so I'm gonna make the most out of it! Right from the start, when you take off that slipcover, the box itself is beautiful. Decorated with waves of ink showing areas of the Wasteland. And the front looks like it would work as an alternate cover of the game with the same idea, but executed differently. And as you open it, you'll find the collection's first batch of items. Of course, you get the game itself and a steelbook case, a digital code for some costumes Mickey could wear in the game, and by the way, don't even try because I already used it, an Oswald the Lucky Rabbit keychain, and these large postcards that show concept art of the remake, all packaged in this nice folder. It's really cool because it makes them look like little files for Epic Mickey. Nah. But then when you take out that top layer, you'll find the bigger stuff in the box, including a tin sign of Epic Mickey, and the centerpiece of this collection, and the reason why this box is so huge in the first place, the statue of Mickey Mouse. This alone makes the collector's edition worth it, and the detail to make the drips come out of Mickey and the paint arch over him is very impressive. This is a major upgrade compared to the figure you get in the original collector's edition. Sure, I still like this one, but unless you align the feet to be at the perfect angle, you might as well just accept that you have a figure of Mickey Mouse who loves sniffing the floor. Also, here's a cool tip I got from a friend of mine. If you want to make the most out of the statue, instead of showing it facing forward, you can put it backward, place the Oswald keychain on the top right corner, and now your statue becomes a recreation of the game's cover. It's honestly my favorite way of displaying it. But again, I must clarify that this wasn't just hard to find, but this is also pretty much an investment. Am I happy with what I paid for? Honestly, yes. But that's because I'm a big Epic Mickey fan, and those are the only people who I recommend this to. It's worth it if you love Epic Mickey as much as I do, or you're a die-hard Mickey Mouse fan. Otherwise, good luck explaining why you spent hundreds of dollars on one game that comes with a bunny keychain and a license plate with a rat on it. But let's be real, this is not about keychains or postcards or statues, it's about the game. As cool as these things are, their value is only as strong as the game itself. So, is this worthy of bringing back Epic Mickey? Well, let's find out. It's often been said that, as a remake, it is very faithful to the first. And as someone who is very familiar with Epic Mickey, I can confirm that it is almost exactly like the original. If I could put it in numbers, I'd say that it's 90 to 95% identical with the same story, the same worlds, the same awesome music by Jim Dooley, the same powers of the brush, and of course, the same mechanics of what they call Play Style Matters.
That we made a game, and we still have a game now in the remaster in Rebrushed that offers players the opportunity to decide how to solve problems. We're not forcing them down a particular path. They decide how to solve problems. Do they erase things? Do they paint things? And when they make their choice, they have to deal with the consequences of their choices.
For the most part, it has a level of faithfulness that will satisfy the need of those who want to revisit Epic Mickey, or for newcomers to have a chance to experience it for themselves without the need of going back to the Nintendo Wii. So it does succeed at its job to be an Epic Mickey remake where it's the same game we all know and love, but now available in multiple consoles instead of just one. However, there is one downside to its similarity that I'll get out of the way now because it's my biggest criticism of the game. I know it was heavily demanded from fans since the original came out, but unfortunately, the cutscenes are also the same. And while they're great on their own with the Mary Blair-inspired style made by Powerhouse Animation Studios, they don't have any voiceovers for the characters other than Corey Burton's performance as Yen Sid in the beginning and the end.
I do not know if the mirror was being mischievous or malicious.
Personally, this never bothered me in the original, but in the case of the remake, it would have been helpful. Mainly because the cutscenes feel like they go faster than before. It doesn't do this all the time, but it happens more so than not, where it doesn't give a chance to give the player the time needed to read what the characters are saying. And I've experienced this problem repeatedly during my playthrough.
Oh well, I'll just get back to my garden. With all the commotion, the only thing okay, well, I guess you don't want me to read that then.
I know it may not sound like much, but what sucks about it is that it makes it harder to get engaged with the story, which I think is one of the best things about Epic Mickey. Showing Mickey Mouse as a complex character as he teams up with his jealous long-lost brother to escape the world of forgotten Disney characters that he unintentionally ruined. Part of the whole experience is to follow the story, and if you really want to have that same sense of immersion like in the original, then I hope you're a fast reader to catch up on what they're saying.
I'm Oswald. I read the cartoon. Wait, come on, game. Give me a chance to read this.
But again, that's my biggest criticism with the remake, and maybe some won't consider that a major deal. There are other changes as well that have actually improved upon Epic Mickey, and you don't have to look deep into it to spot the changes. In fact, all you gotta do is just look at it! It's been nearly 14 years between the original and the remake, so it's a guarantee that the graphics are going to get a significant upgrade. And I applaud the team at Purple Lamp for the way they gave the game a new coat of paint with Unreal Engine 4. I always loved the level design of Epic Mickey, crafting the Wasteland as this broken down and twisted version of Disneyland with its own version of classic rides and lands, turning Mickey's Toontown into Oztown, Pirates of the Caribbean into Most Adventureland, the Haunted Mansion into Lonesome Manor, It's a Small World into Gremlin Village, and more. And in Rebrushed, it did the Wasteland justice. The amount of detail that they put in is admirable, where part of the fun of the game is the exploration of these attractions that feel abandoned or really torn apart, where they use scraps of obscure Disney media, complete with queues, theaters, and even technical areas where they operate the rides.
Hey, I mean, this is like the control panel for the ride. Oh my god, I just noticed this right now. This is like where the employees go. Oh my god, that's actually a pretty cool detail.
They add this extra fun for Disney fans to look around and find all the Easter eggs to see if they can recognize where they're from. Not to mention that even the enemies and the bosses got a visual upgrade as well, where they look great and sometimes more menacing to present how they are a darker version of what they're supposed to represent. And speaking of the bosses, some like the Clock Tower have some new tricks to help make what are already exciting boss fights more intense.
Oh geez, what are you doing? Oh, I don't remember this! I don't remember this! Oh geez, you got some new tricks up your sleeves!
However, if I have to point to where the graphics got the biggest upgrade, it has to be in the projectors. They look way more defined, and most of everything is now fully 3D rendered to bring these classic cartoons to life. This is honestly where I felt the most impressed by the work done in the remake, where it felt like this was much more than an import of an older game. They had to rebuild most of it from the ground up to capture a better vision of what they're supposed to be. By the way, you may have noticed that I'm specifically playing the Switch version, which does make it sound weird now that I'm praising the graphics of the game, yet the version I'm playing is not far off from what it looked like on the Wii. But I will say that yes, even on something like the Switch, the visual upgrade is indeed noticeable. But if you want to get the best graphics out of the game, then you have to play it on one of the more advanced consoles like the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series, or on the PC. And from the clips that I've seen, oh yeah, it's a real level up compared to my experience. It is extra gorgeous on those. I know that this is not a big deal for some, But if graphics matter to you and you want to make the most out of the visuals, then I recommend you go with the stronger consoles. But as nice as the graphics can be to show how Epic Mickey got an upgrade, there is one element from the game that fans have been eagerly awaiting to see if something was done about it. That blasted camera! Out of everything for the original Epic Mickey, I think the camera is what got the biggest criticism with how it was often considered to be so broken and frustrating to control. For some gamers, this component is what spoiled their experience with the original and kept it away from making Epic Mickey one of Disney's best games that they ever produced. It is a camera that is so hated, it could be Disney's next CEO. And with this remake, was this issue finally addressed? Did Rebrushed fix the camera? Well, with how faithful it is to the original, the answer to that is yes. By a lot, actually. Not only were they able to fix the camera to make it easier to handle, but the game also gives you the option to fully customize the controls, including the sensitivity of the camera itself, and change the button mapping to however you like. This is why, if you're gonna play the game, I highly recommend that you start by going straight to the options menu and make sure that all the controls and the camera is to your liking. It may take a few minutes of trial and error to get all of it in the way that you're most comfortable with, but the effort is worth it for the hours of enjoyment you'll get when the game's own mechanics are finally working with you instead of being your biggest enemy next to the shadow blot. Oh, and speaking of those mechanics, another new thing they added to Disney Epic Mickey Rebrush is give Mickey some new abilities to help him on his journey. I'll admit that as much as I love the original, the gameplay itself did feel a bit basic, where the only things that Mickey Mouse could do were jump, spin, paint, and thin. That's it. But in Rebrushed, on top of doing those, he can run to go through the lands faster, do a quick dash to dodge enemies and break objects, and ground pound to push hordes of enemies away from you. And as a bonus, some of the features from Epic Mickey 2 returned to the game, like photo mode to take pictures of your adventures, and costumes to change Mickey's look so that he could be the brave little tailor, he could wear a hat, or become one of his most iconic forms, the public domain boat rat. Yet, when it comes to these new features though, they are a bit of a mix. On one hand, most of them are just for aesthetic that don't add anything to the gameplay. But then again, some like the run and the ground pound added that much needed spice to the original's bland moveset and have been proven to be pretty helpful to get through some tough situations or navigate through the levels more efficiently. But out of all the changes and additions to the remake, they are nothing compared to what I think is the game's biggest improvement.
Wait, if you talk to Gus, you can skip the projector? You can skip the projector levels? You can do that? Oh my god! Yo, I should have done that to Gus. I should have talked to Gus. That's honestly one of the things I've wanted the most from the first Epic Mickey.
One of my biggest problems with the Wii's Epic Mickey is the sheer repetitiveness of the projector levels. For some of the side quests and even some of the main missions you gotta do, they require you to continuously go back and forth on these projectors. And while they may look nice at first, their charm eventually wears off when you have to go through them for the 7th time and know that this won't be your last visit. But in Rebrushed, they took the feature from the original Japanese version where you can instead talk to Gus so that you could skip them entirely and jump straight to where you want to go. Yes, there is a small fee to pay for every time you use it, but that is next to nothing compared to removing that sense of repetitiveness and the time you save on your playthrough. For me, this is like a wish come true that greatly enhanced my experience with the game and not feel like there's anything in this that overstays its welcome.
Oh, the fact that they just got rid of that and you could just skip it, that does wonders. That already is like a massive point above the first Epic Mickey, and it's something that I'm still trying to get used to and trying to soak in. It feels great.
It's great to see how Rebrushed actually improved some of the original's core mechanics, such as the controls, the camera, and Mickey's moveset. As a game in itself, it handles quite well and helps to make it fun to play. However, there is a factor to this that may be a make or break deal for fans of the original. Keep in mind that this isn't just a remake of a game, it's a remake of a Wii game. And by bringing it to modern consoles, the feel of it will be unavoidably different. The reason why the first Epic Mickey was a Wii exclusive was because a core component of the game was the motion controls. To use the Wii remote like a brush so that you could point to where you have to paint or thin. The only catch is that this is an element that is unique to the Nintendo Wii. If you're going to bring Epic Mickey to another console, then you'll have to completely alter how the game feels and work around not having those motion controls. As a result, the one possible downside to the gameplay compared to the original is that painting and thinning doesn't feel as natural. The cursor is mostly stuck in the middle where you have to rely on the camera to make sure you're pointing at the right thing to do the job. And it can happen when it feels like you're just throwing paint away. That, and there are a few times when the camera unexpectedly becomes fixed and it suddenly gives you control over the cursor, which makes it awkward to handle and hard to adjust to the sudden switch. Now, I know that this won't be a problem for everyone. Like I said, the controls by themselves are fine, and newcomers won't have that sense of comparison to factor in their opinion. But for fans of the first, the way the remake handles in contrast to the original is what will determine which version you prefer. And on a side note, depending on which console that you're playing this on, the loading time may vary. I've heard other consoles go through them in under 5 seconds at most, but based on my experience, if you're playing this on the Switch, you'll need a bit of patience before you set foot on the next area.
All right. Actually, I want to know if now we're going to be at the part where I want to see if it has that secret level. Like, I want to see if, like, they bring in that urban legend that's actually real about Disney. I just want to see if we're going to be at that point. If it can load, of course. Like, it's going to take its time, but I mean, we'll get there eventually. We'll definitely get there. Yeah, I guess that would be something to... Oh, okay, never mind.
But going back to the controls, I am aware that the PS5 and the Switch version do have motion controls. And with my Switch, I was curious if you're able to use the Joy-Cons the same way you could with the Wii. And to my surprise, you kind of can, but it makes the game so much worse. They only activate when you're using the brush, and the craziest part is that you don't control Mickey's arm to point to where you want to shoot. The cursor stays in the middle while you're motion controlling the camera. I get the Switch's tech is different than the Wii, but who decided that the motion controls have to move everything but the cursor? Ever gotten whiplash from painting?
Seriously, you gotta make sure you're calm. You know, don't get too excited, or else you're gonna go, like, you're gonna jump around and, like, shake the remote like, hey! This is insane! Who the freak thought this was a good idea?
But I know that some of you don't just want to go through the game from start to finish. If you know Epic Mickey, then you know that there is that extra challenge of completing the whole thing 100%. Now, I've played through the original multiple times and made myself pretty familiar with the Wasteland. So much so that I did everything on the first Epic Mickey. And considering that Rebrushed is almost the same as the first, I can give you a few good tips if you want to fully complete the game. In order to finish Rebrushed 100%, you have to collect all the reels, the extra content, and the pins. And this is not counting the consoles that have their own achievement system. The reels and extras are self-explanatory. You have to really explore the levels to find them in some tricky and sometimes secret areas that you have to paint and thin your way into. Even when you think you're at the end of the level or just starting it, rather they be in the lands or the projectors, keep looking around because they could sometimes be further than where the exit is or behind where you begin. And also, don't prioritize on buying all the extras you could find at the stores immediately. Not only will you need to keep some tickets with you in case the game asks you to spend some, but those extras are just one-time purchases as well. It doesn't matter how many times you play through the game. Once you buy either a pin or an extra, you get it for good. So just buy them a bit at a time as you keep playing until you have everything that you can purchase. But the real challenge of the completion is getting all 112 pins, and I can guarantee you that it is impossible to get 100% in just one playthrough, since it requires you to do just about every choice you can make in the game. That is why I say that a full completion requires at least 3 full playthroughs. One to do the entire paint path, one to do the entire thinner path, and one more to collect the rest. And not only will you have to make every good and bad decision during those rounds, but some require you to make a combination of the two in order to get some of the harder pins. Yes, there are those that can be easy to grab, like buying them in a store, making a significant choice like to paint or thin a boss, repairing the animatronic friends, or finding a treasure chest, but this is where you learn why Warren Spector calls it Play Style Matters. You have to be sure you did all the possible outcomes of each quest, or do all the outcomes of each task and puzzle in the levels. Because if there's one you missed out on, you most likely have to play the game from the beginning again in order to get another chance at it. That's why it's important to memorize and take note of your decisions and outcomes, so that in your next playthrough, you'll do them in the alternate way in order to get those missing pins. It will be a lot of work and a lot of hours, but the more you play and the more you noted what you accomplished, the more you'll be familiar with what you have to do, including for next time, making the completion go faster where you can then sit back and enjoy the extras that you worked hard to collect. So to all those that are up for the completion challenge, I wish you all the best of luck. So, after looking through everything in this new version of Epic Mickey, did the remake meet all those expectations? I mean, I spent this whole year hyping myself up for the return of one of my favorite video games and spent far more money than I should onto this one game so that I could relive those happy times like when I was playing it on the Wii. And now that I actually see it for what it is, was it all worth it? Are you kidding? Absolutely! This game is great! Disney Epic Mickey Rebrushed is not just the same game brought to later consoles, but a great example of what a video game remake should be. On top of bringing back what fans loved about the original with its twisted depiction of Disney iconography and clever use of the company's lesser-known characters and elements for its story and world building, it also improved upon itself in certain ways to make itself stronger with a better camera and controls that are fully customizable, more abilities to give the gameplay some extra spice, and better graphics to bring the Wasteland to life in a new and awe-inspiring way. Is this a perfect remake? Admittedly, no. There are some things that I wish they made better, or at least be as good as the original, like the speed of the cutscenes to follow the narrative better, or the way it adapted the Wii motion controls to the consoles that don't have that tech. But all of its problems are minor compared to how it brought back the magic of one of Mickey Mouse's best and possibly most underrated adventures. Would I consider this to be better than the original? That's honestly hard to say. I'd probably put them on par because they both have an equal amount of pros and cons. The remake has better graphics and better gameplay, while the original has a better flow of the story and that nostalgia of playing it on the Wii. But either way, when it comes to Rebrushed, I say that this is a good game in general to try out. Not just for Disney fans or those who grew up with the first Epic Mickey, but also for anyone who wants a fun platformer. Rather, if you just want to go through the whole story once or try a new challenge to 100% a game, Rebrushed is worth adding to your collection. And if you enjoyed this look into Rebrushed, then like this review and subscribe to my channel. But if you want to put some extra paint to that love, then come and join my Patreon at patreon.com/animat. As for my rating, based on my entire experience with the game, I give it an 8 out of 10. I know it's not the best game I've played on the Switch, but I still love it for giving me a chance to relive that great adventure in the Wasteland. But you know what was the best part about bringing back Epic Mickey for me? It wasn't about replaying the game or having something new from the franchise or anything related to the game itself. The best part of all this for me is that I no longer feel alone in being an Epic Mickey fan. For several years, I have always thought that this was my personal niche interest that Disney gave up on for over a decade. But then seeing all those reactions from the remake made me feel like it's not just me who's hyped up for this. And between the announcement and the release, I've seen loads of videos, even whole channels dedicated to uncovering every piece of Epic Mickey that people could find. From lost media to hidden secrets to prototypes that were never before seen. The reason why I made the Epic Mickey files over a decade ago was to help share my sense of excitement about Epic Mickey by teaching people who the residents of the Wasteland are, thus giving them more meaning in the games and show why I, as a Disney nerd, thought it was so awesome watching them come back in this meta universe that brings two of Walt Disney's earliest creations together. And after all these years, seeing other people expressing that same excitement that I had when the original was out honestly fills my heart to know that why I love Epic Mickey so much is something that I can share and connect with others. And now, after fully playing the game and talking about it, it does raise one question. How funny is it that in an age where Disney is so obsessed with remaking their classics, their best one turned out to be a Mickey Mouse video game?
Oh boy, that was a big review. Still though, that definitely was fun. And that statue really does look nice. I am really glad I got that. What the fridge? Where did that come from? What the?